Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Up today we have the Mymourne Banshees. We're starting from a white primer. This is Vallejo primer run through an airbrush, but any white can or airbrush will do. First up is a coat of Nihilakh Oxide over all the ghostly parts. This is taken straight from the pot. The tinning is not necessary. Be sure, however, to shake it well. I didn't shake it enough on the first pass here. You can see the coverage is very poor. You can see after giving it a shake, the coverage is a lot better here. This isn't a traditional base, so you don't need perfect coverage. After that's dry, we give it a dry brush of Ulthuan grey. We're doing it across all the raised edges. As you can see here, this dry brush will leave an aggressive kind of chalky texture or pattern on the mini. We'll be covering that up later on, so you can ignore it. So just go over all the Nihilakh Oxide and pick out all the details. Next up, we apply some base coats. Here we're using Boombull brown on all the leather areas. I forgot to paint her scabbard here for her knife, but I did come back to it later on. Next up is Leadbelcher. We're painting this on the knife and any of the railings that are on several of the textured bases. Next up is an optional step, and that is to apply some Retributor Armour to some of the details on the knife. It's optional, but I think it adds a nice extra bit of colour to a miniature that's otherwise has a limited colour palette. Here we're base coating all the stone areas, Mechanicius standard grey. There are several of these across all the bases. Some of them are meant to represent little walls around old-fashioned graves, and there are some paving slabs as well. So they're all base coated Mechanicius standard grey. Now we take advantage of the white primer to use skeleton Horde on the skulls that are scattered around all the bases. Using the contrast paints on the bases will save a lot of time, as they are over detailed. Next up is Wyldwood on all the tree trunks and roots that are across all the bases. Here we apply Aggaros dunes to the earth textured areas of the bases, which is almost all of the unpainted areas except the flowers. Here we apply a base coat of Screamer Pink to the multiple flowers that are scattered around the bases. Here we're applying Agrax Earthshade to all the areas we've painted Mechanicius Standard Grey and Leadbelcher. You can also apply it to any leather areas to help give you an extra bit of detail. We're almost done now. Here we just tidy up the aggressive chalkiness using a mix of a green shade. I'm using Biel-tan green. I mixed it 50-50 with water, and I'm washing over the entire Nihilakh Oxide and dry brushed area. I know when it's wet it doesn't look like it's going to cover it up properly, but after it dries it'll tone down all the chalkiness. You can also apply the Biel-tan green and water to some of the Mechanicius Standard Grey areas. Once it dries it will look kind of like a moss and give just an extra little touch of detail. Here you can see the dried shade. The chalkiness is gone and has been replaced by different tones of green, giving a good overall effect. Here we have some optional layering, and that is to apply some Wazdakka red to the raised edges on the flowers. There's multiple flowers scattered across all the bases. You can also choose to pick out any of the leaves that are on the floor. I'm using Loren Forest here. This is definitely an optional step, as they're not that big and there aren't that many of them either. And the final step, of course, is just to clean up the base rim. I've used a Baden black, but you can use whatever colour suits your army basing style. If you found anything in this tutorial interesting or useful, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching.